Okay, we have now the last panel of this morning. A panel moderated by Roxanne Varza, who has co-founded Girls in Tech in Paris and in London. I'm sure you're all familiar with Roxanne Varza. She's kind of a very important people in our tech ecosystem, especially on this side of the Atlantic. So we will welcome Roxanne and four of her panelists, 3 women and 1 guy. Roxanne, you can join me on stage.
I will ask everybody to take a seat. I think people, when they see Phil, they might get a little bit surprised. It's a girls in tech panel. Why is there a man here? We decided that we actually wanted to keep things mixed. It was better. That's the whole point of girls in tech. So anyway, I will ask everybody to pick up a mic really quickly. Just to kind of introduce everybody, I think I'll start with Marie. She's a partner at Elaia Partners, one of the founders of France Digital. Maybe I'll let you say a quick word actually about how long you've actually been with Elaia Partners.
Sure. So I've been with Elaia since 2005. I've now sitting at the board of 6 companies. First one is Curator. I'm sitting also at the board of All My Apps, Icon, Yplay, and Scoopit. And,
so very France-based.
France-based, yeah.
Yep. And Phil, you're joining us from the UK. You guys had actually, I think you were backed by Y Combinator and Index, and you're with Songkick. You made the switch from academia. Do you want to just say a quick word about that?
Sure. So I'm with Songkick. If you don't know the company, we do live music, so we help people find concerts that they're going to want to go to see. I've been doing that since 2007, various roles. I'm now chief scientist and heading sort of the data bit of our team. And yeah, prior to that was an academic. I was looking at machine learning as applied to search, amongst other things. And I guess I kind of felt that sort of joining Startup Land was a way to do similarly interesting things with technology, but with sort of the grounding and reality you get from working at a business.
Great. Thank you. We have another actually UK-based startup, although it was founded, one of the co-founders is from Prime Minister originally, so it's Shopcade, and you actually made the switch from politics to startups. Do you want to talk really quickly about your role within Shopcade and then also what the company does very quickly?
Of course. So I co-founded Shopcade with Nathalie Gaveau from Prime Minister, Evan Edelman and Hun Kim back at the beginning of 2011, and we launched our Facebook app at the end of 2011 and our website in April this year. We are your personalized shopping platform, so our motto is to help you shop like a boss, so show you products that are relevant to you that you're going to like and you're going to want to shop, and only these products. And before joining Shopcade, as you say, I was working in politics and also in public services, managing large projects for the French government first, and then for Transport for London, which is the London equivalent of the RATP. So still working on big projects, maybe even bigger, and the only difference is it moves much, much faster.
Great. And finally, I have Lubomira, who is today at the head of Valtech in France. And you made the switch. I think you even mentioned to me that you had studied in the US, which I was very happy to hear. And then you went to Capgemini, Microsoft, and today at Valtech. Do you want to talk really quickly about your role there?
Yes, hello. I'm managing director at Valtech. Valtech is a kind of old startup. We were created in 1993. And it's a new breed of marketing technology agency. We really work and thrive at the intersection of marketing and technology. And we are a full-service company, basically, doing from strategy consulting to design and creative work to development and architecture technology, and then to real-time optimization. So this is what I do. Before that, I started my career at Capgemini and then managed the startup programs at Microsoft.
Great. And so we're here to talk about big data, essentially. And I've been telling everybody, is it a sexy topic? Is it not a sexy topic? I think, actually, you're probably the best person to maybe kick off with, because you guys have actually just launched something, a big data offer that caters to marketing.
Yep.
Do you want to say, essentially, where did this idea come from? Why directed to marketing?
Big data is a topic that is often addressed from a technology standpoint, like with lots of barbaric words like Hadoop, MapReduce, and everything. And we felt at Valtech, since we work with CIO and CMOs, that there was a real need to tailor an offering of big data for marketers. Basically, what we try to do is really put in place like strong technological architecture infrastructure to collect data from everywhere, and then basically treat, analyze, and give the insights, and then give strong recommendations to the marketing people for them to drive impact on the business. Basically, it's really about better customer experience, better customer engagement, and drive sales.
Great. And Mai, you have a couple investments, actually. I think Criteo is probably the best known example, but you definitely have other startups that are working in the same field, whether it be through voice recognition or what have you. Do you want to give a couple of examples, maybe, of big data startups and kind of the trends that you're seeing?
Sure. I guess the best example would be Criteo, which is, in terms of it is a technical issue, I mean, big data. So Criteo, I think, has the strongest R&D labs in Europe after Google. So they have 300 engineers in Paris. So it really is something that is technical. But what it does is actually not seen as a technical thing. So Criteo really enables you to have your own personalized advertising experience on the web, which is basically whatever you have seen as products on your navigation throughout the web. They will understand it, they will analyze your taste, and be able afterwards to provide you a targeted ad on other publishers' site. So it's really, what is interesting there is that you see one of the major trends that it totally gone to its finition is that I will not see the same advertising at Roxanne. It's a totally personalized navigation and totally personalized digital experience. So for me, this is one of the major trends in big data, which is you're going from a device-centric to a user-centric experience. So my own digital experience will not be the same as anybody else, based on the analytics of the data of my own personal navigation before that. And it's totally real time. So if you look at all the goals in there, there's a lot of things. There's one, getting the data. There's two, analyzing the data. And three, in real time, being able to do all that bidding and buying system to provide you to the best ad. So it's one of the things that I do really see is to say that it's going to be personalized. Your own digital experience is going to be personalized.
And I think actually the two startups that we have, both Songkick and Shopcade, both can speak to that as well. Do you want to talk about how the experience is completely personalized, how you guys are leveraging the data that you're... First of all, what is the data that you guys are pulling, and how are you using that to make a completely personalized experience for each user? Maybe I'll let you start with Shopcade.
Sure. So we get data from various sources, and I think that's one of the key elements of big data is actually to diversify your sources as much as possible. So the first set of data that we get is from retailers. So we have over 90 million products in our catalog today, and we'll probably be at 100 million and more by the end of the year. So first challenge is to actually get the right data, updated data, good quality data from retailers, and that is quite a challenge. So it requires a little bit of education, liaising with the retailers, getting them to improve their feeds, and also being able to, obviously you get feeds in different formats, being able to put them all into a similar format so you can actually join these data sources and work with them together. In addition to that, we get a lot of user data from social networks, so from Facebook, from Twitter. We get obviously the age, gender, location, but also the number of friends, number of active friends, number of followers, the likes, the content of what you're posting or tweeting. So that gives us a lot of information about who our users are. And then the last set of data is probably the most important one, is what our users are doing on Shopcade. And so that goes all the way from searching for keywords to actually browsing the catalog, to adding products to your wish list, creating lists, which is a really key indication of what you're into, what interests you. Following several users, so you can follow, as in Twitter, you can follow users. So we know, it's interesting to see who follows who. Why do they have similar tastes, and why are they of interest to each other? And so the key challenge for us, obviously, is to aggregate all this data, join the sources, and then act upon it. And I think one of the key things is, how do you find the signals within the noise? There's a lot of data. How do you actually identify what the right and relevant data at each point of time is?
And what have you guys done to be able to pinpoint? What data have you determined has been useful? Because you guys are pulling all kinds of data, tweets, likes, I don't know how much information you guys are getting about products, price, location, where it comes from, I don't know. What is actually valuable for the end user?
Well, to be perfectly honest, it depends on the users. So, talking, for example, about Facebook data, for some users, the Facebook likes are telling you a lot, are super interesting, and they're actually really relevant in order to define what their shopping DNA is. For other users, either they like pretty much everything that there's to like on the web, or they don't have any likes, or their likes are pretty, in which case we actually go a bit deeper and look at other types of data. So it's kind of, I think, again, user-centric. There's no one solution that fits all. You actually have to look at each profile and decide for that user what is the relevant information.
And Phil, would you say it's the same for Songkick? Is it really about finding a kind of like weeding out all the noise and pinpointing exactly what's relevant?
Yeah, very definitely. We have a sort of similar set of problems, really, in that we get data from all over the place. Ticket vendors, pretty much anyone who is involved in putting on live music has data that they can give us, and we aggregate that. And a big part of the problem is combining data from multiple sources, doing that in a consistent way, cleaning up the noise, making sure that it's accurate, everything there. And then the sort of the other side of what we do is the understanding of the users. So people build a taste profile on Songkick, and we use that to tell them things that are of interest to them. Sometimes that's very sort of precise and mechanical, that people want to track a particular artist. I guess sort of music's a bit different to some things in that you are a fan of a particular band. So people want that kind of control. They want to understand sometimes where things are going for, but they also do want general recommendations, either because they forgot to tell us about an artist. They happen to not have any MP3s by a particular artist, so we weren't able to find that in their tastes, and sort of more sort of general data about similar artists can help us with that. Or it's someone that they haven't heard yet, but they're incentivized to check them out, maybe see if they want to go and give a show. Another piece of data that's very useful is the social context, so understanding what their friends are doing, because live music is inherently a social activity. When you go to a concert, you would typically go with friends. So that's something we sort of working on quite a lot at the moment, is understanding what people's friends are into and telling people not only what they're doing, but sort of suggesting which friends you might like to bring to a concert, that kind of thing. So social data is pretty important too.
And is that not posing any privacy concerns? Are we getting this much information about people down to what their friends are doing and where they're at in a specific location? Does this is there some measures that we need to put into place, or is this not posing any kind of concern for anyone?
I think it's a topic that you do need to be aware of. We want to not automatically tell people, where a person's going without them being aware of that, for sure. I think you just have to balance people do get genuine utility from this social behavior, and people are generally very open to using it. People are used to doing all sorts of things on Facebook at the moment. So I think you need to listen to people's concerns and you need to address them, but people do genuinely find this stuff useful.
And Marie, are you seeing kind of similar things with the companies that you're invested in? Are they also dealing with the privacy issue to a certain extent?
Sure. For example, Criteo, of course. Then you have to have your own privacy policy and be clear with the user, basically. So for Criteo, for example, is that the data that they have for one particular retailer or a particular client customer, they will use it only for this customer to be able to personalize the ad of that particular brand, and will not use it to be able to have certain profiling or to use it to have a better ad for the competitor or something like that. So, but you need to be clear. I guess that the main thing is transparency, and so this is something that everybody should focus on saying, you know, you're using my service, this is how I'm going to use the data, because the data will be, you know, who is really the one who has the data, the intellectual property of the data, and then what will it use it for? And so I guess that's the thing you should be clear about for your users.
Okay. And so, Lubomira, with the new offer that you guys have launched for marketers, just to kind of touch on that for a moment, is it really about developing a product that caters to the user in order to keep people, essentially maintain user retention? Or is it about something else? Essentially, what are you seeing people do with big data in order to stop customer churn?
Basically, there's the two main scenarios, effectively. The first one is really knowing better the customer and then be able to predict his behavior and especially the churn, because this is a big concern for all of our customers, of course. And then the second scenario is how can I hyper-personalize the products or the service I want to address to my customers. And this is a very, the privacy thing is a very interesting thing, because what we see when we run focus groups on the customers of our customers, the end users, they say I have no problem with giving up my data, my personal data, as long as I get personalized services going with that. Help me choose between a variety of products, give me the right product at the right moment. This is really what is key for them. And knowing that, they are open to relieve their data. So yeah, basically two main scenarios: churn, hyper-personalization, and targeting. And we say in Valtech that the segmentation, the classical segmentation for marketing is kind of dead, because before you were something like a household lady of 50 years. Today you can be a household lady of 50 years and loving video and games and whatever. So you can really personalize with attributions. With attribution, you can really personalize your experience on the web. So it's very interesting.
Interesting. I actually find that really interesting that people wouldn't mind giving up more data or more information about themselves as long as they're getting a more relevant service. Is that something that you're seeing at Shopcade?
Absolutely. Same. Completely the same. I completely agree. As long as it's useful, as long as it's bringing added value, and as long as we're completely transparent, as Maria said, so don't hide anything from the consumers, be completely open, it's absolutely fine.
So now, just to come back essentially to something that you mentioned earlier, I think you said you guys are going to be close to 100 million products at the end of the year. We're talking about a massive number of products, and you guys were founded 2 years ago. That's vamped up really quickly. What are some of the challenges that you see when you're dealing with such a rapid expansion of data as well?
Well, I think what we learned, and if I had one lesson to give today, is from the outset, even when you're really small, when you start with, probably a feed of a few thousand products, plan for exponential growth. Because we kind of learned that by doing, but you have to bear that in mind from the beginning. It will grow exponentially if all goes well, but more than likely, it will grow exponentially, and you have to start thinking about that from the beginning, even though it sounds pretty far away. So we've developed our technology quite a lot over the last year. We're still basically improving on a daily basis. As I said, we expect 100 million by the end of the year, and from next year, our users are going to be able to add products from anywhere on the web. So we're probably not even going to talk, in hundreds of millions, but many more than that very soon. So yeah, just bear that in mind from the outset.
Okay, and now Phil, to kind of touch upon one of the challenges as well. So she's mentioning essentially storage and planning for growth and that kind of thing. On your end, and I think probably similarly to Shopcade, you guys are gathering data from so many different sources. What is the biggest challenge when you're actually dealing with so much different data coming in from so many places?
Right. sort of technically speaking, there are a few challenges, and sort of you don't really appreciate just sort of how diverse and how variable data sources are until you try and work with hundreds of them. But they're all different, and some are pretty good, some are accurate, some you can trust, some are consistent, and then some aren't. And you have to find a way to deal with that. So you need to find a way to work out whether two data feeds are referring to the same thing. You need to work out whether, in our case, if a venue is referred to by multiple different names, what the correct version of that is. You need to work out whether, people have made mistakes. People have put a concert in for the wrong date or something, and we don't want to announce something that's not happening. So we need to be very careful about that. And that's part automation, and there is some manual oversight to that as well. So we've put a decent amount of effort into architecting our systems so that we can respond to any problems we see by adapting and adding new heuristics for cleaning things up automatically if that's possible. We have architected things so it's very easy to add new data sources, to turn them off if they go wrong. And we also do have people who check the high-profile artists manually just to make sure that the data that a lot of people are going to see is correct. So we do a sort of manual quality control step as well. And all of that takes some thought as to what the process is, what the infrastructure is that you need that. And we put the work in up front to build technical infrastructure that makes our lives easier when we have to respond rapidly to things.
Okay, great. And so just to come back to, we spoke earlier about kind of how big data is leading the personalization of experiences. What are some of the other trends that you're seeing in the space? Is it, I think probably to touch a little bit on the topic of this conference, is Internet of Things, maybe even multi-screen experiences, multi-device experiences. Is that...
I would say it's coming with the fact that you're becoming user-centric, is that your own digital experience, you're expecting it now to be the same, where if you access with a tablet, if you access with a mobile, if you access with the television, or with just a classic PC or iMac. But this is very hard to do. Just being able to provide the same service based on the same type of data to provide personalization on all these different type of device is extremely complicated, because you need what? You need to have the data synchronized in the cloud. You need to make sure that you're talking to the same user, so to identify the user. You need to be able to provide security of the data, and then afterwards to be able to match all these different types of data, and they're not the same standard, they're not stored in the same place on the same information system. I remind you that for a number of years, the IP operators were not the same as the mobile operators, so it's just not, the data are not talking to each other. So it's just being able to have a proxy to do the mapping of this different type of data, to be able to provide a whole recommendation of the global digital experience of the user is very complicated. And then you need to be able real time to have to analyze the behavior real time, to have a total perfect advice to give to the user. Which content do you need to look at? Which application should you now download for that particular service you're looking for, knowing who you are and what you were looking for before. So all this is which is just being user-centric and being able to provide the same service, whatever the device the user is using, is going to be very difficult. And I see it as a major convergence trend in the future.
Great. And since we're running low on time, I'll just kind of touch over the last 2 points we wanted to cover. One of them, I think, is probably even internal organization. How is big data actually changing the structure of the company? Are you seeing actually teams created around big data? What is happening internally in organizations?
It's very interesting what's happening, because big data, as Mary said, it's a very big challenge, because you have, before, companies used to see the inside out view of data. So everything was inside, and it was quite easy. You did BI and everything. Today, the problem is that it's outside in, so you have to hybridize your data, your internal data with external data. And so it's a very big challenge of collecting the data from inside and from outside. And then the main problem is that it's very siloed today. You have data everywhere in the company, and then you have people owning those data who are very different persons. So the first challenge for a company like Valtech when we do projects on big data is really a governance issue, how to make all those people work together, and especially the CIO and the CMO, the marketing and the IT. That's a very big challenge. I know you know what I'm talking about, and it's really where we are good, and that's the first and foremost challenge.
And are startups actually putting together teams, data teams? Do you guys actually have people in-house that are doing this?
So for us, as I said, data is at the core of our business model. Actually, interestingly, our CIO and CMO are the same persons, which helps. But basically, absolutely. So it helps with communication. Basically, what everyone in the business is data focused, and it's key. And some people, it's a skill that they have when they come, and some people have to build it. But we're always looking at the data, and everything we do is data driven. Just to give you an example, not very long ago, we got that feedback from users that they loved having products recommended to them, but they also wanted, with Christmas approaching, they actually wanted us to recommend gifts for their friends and relatives. And so we just basically acted upon it. So we created what we call the gift generator. So if you log into Shopcade today, you'll be able to create gift lists for your family and for your closest friends based on their Facebook likes and their profile. And that's just how everything we do is A/B tested, everything and we actually act upon the feedback and the data that we get.
So I was actually going to ask for an example of a product that you launched that you pulled from certain data. So what data are you actually using for the gift generator?
So we're using Facebook data mainly. So we find out who your relatives are and who your closest friends, which are basically your friends that you engage with most on Facebook, are. And then we pull out of the data, obviously. So again, age, gender, location, their Facebook likes, their interests. And based on that, we create a list of 30 to 40 products for each of them. And it's a completely different list from one person to the other. There's no two similar lists. And so if they like Lady Gaga, then we'll propose some books, pictures, music. If they're into Beethoven, they'll get something completely different. And we add also the most kind of trending products for that particular demographic. So.
Great. And Phil, same, I guess, two questions now. So one is internally, do you guys actually have a team that's being dedicated to this?
Yes, we do. I kind of echo pretty much everything in the previous response. We do have a team because there are sort of specialist skills that are needed to do data analysis and a lot of the sort of technical side of data well, but it's also pretty important that data is something which flows throughout the entire company. Pretty much anyone who's making any kind of decision, whether that's sort of high-level business strategy or, whether version A or version B of a particular feature is relevant, can treat that as an experiment, can gather data to make a case one way or the other and act based on that. So that's A/B testing, that's understanding the users, that's understanding statistically what's missing from the product. And that complements all of the qualitative stuff you do through user testing and surveys and various other things. But it's important. And the data science team, which I'm a part of, I think we view part of our job as to help the rest of the company make good use of data and help the rest of the company understand what's possible and what they need to do to be able to make effective use of it. So there's sort of an outreach within the company role there, and that's really important. Otherwise, we're just some people sitting in one corner and we do stuff that doesn't really have any effect, and that's not a good way to run a business.
Great. And so you mentioned that you actually have this team looking at data to find out what's quote-unquote missing from the product. And you guys actually launched something recently to kind of cater to something that was demanded almost.
So we have a new product called Detour, which I guess the thing that's missing is particular shows. So what Detour is it's a way for people to make it clear what they would like to happen in the world of live music. So there are sort of a few variants on this, and it's very new, and we're still sort of figuring out what works best, but effectively give people a way to commit, make a pledge to say that they will buy a ticket to a show if that show happens. So that gives them a way to sort of put data into the system up front and say, there is definite actionable demand for a particular artist. That's something then that sort of people who put on concerts can then take that data, can say that there is money associated with this. We're guaranteed to sell this number of tickets, and that helps everyone. It helps the fans see more music, and it helps the live music industry know a lot more about what's likely to be successful before they commit to booking a venue and booking an act. So it's early days. We've only just started with this, but we're excited to see where it goes.
Great. All right. Well, I think we're pretty much out of time. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. Thanks to all of you. So this was the last panel of our special content during this morning. You can come back at 2. We have a wonderful workshop with Facebook during 1 hour that will kickstart the social business track. And then we have plenty of very interesting presentation, Q&A, keynotes from brands, vendors. We have Danone this afternoon, Dunkin' Donuts. We have Lego this afternoon or tomorrow, I don't remember. You have the program. But yeah, 2 p.m. we start again with the social business track. Thank you very much.